Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to That Silverline Show on Tuesday. I am your host, Tim TK, and I am joined by our inglorious three, Mr. Quentin Bedwell.
How's it going, everybody? Just working on some Trups. Book number 3.
Very cool.
How's it going?
And Mr. Aaron Humphreys.
What do you want? What are you talking to me? You guys can hear me? I gotta get out this station. No, I'm just working on Christmas special for Mr. Dean Zachary coloring
You're
stuff.
doing a superb job on that, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Just want to say it publicly. I've told you privately, but I want to tell you publicly.
Yeah, the stuff you're doing for the Christmas. We got some good stuff coming in this Christmas special. This stuff was awesome too. The color and stuff on that. Like, if you guys are into Christmas or just reading comics with cool art, definitely check this out. We got some cool stuff coming in.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this is definitely not something that a lot of people are doing.
No.
Christmas specials with all these different creators all in one book. I mean,
Yeah,
I cannot wait to receive mine. That's for sure.
it's gonna be like 100-something pages. It's gonna be a big old book of fun. Yeah. I'm just here joining whoever these people are on here. I don't.
Tim's got him story in there. Oh,
I got a story in there. It's about punching. Well, I'm just punching. It's about shooting a Nazi to save Christmas.
Yeah.
I didn't know you could write, Tim.
On occasion.
Okay, sometimes.
Yeah. I try to be better than most editors in that I'm also a contributor. As noted by our Silverline website, which you can see Break My Brain on every week on our website. Yeah, silverlinecomics.com. You also follow us at all social medias. Yeah, Bill Torrey. You can see the blog post that I try to cram out every Tuesday morning. We do kind of a variety of everything on there. Right now, it's been a lot of promotion because we got a lot of things going on. Like the Silverline news cycle has sped up drastically just over the course of the year. Which is exciting stuff. Yeah,
a lot of new creators, a lot of new creations, a lot of stuff that's come and gone back and going into next issues. Pretty crazy stuff.
It's nuts. I have a story in the Christmas special, arted by one Mr. Quentin Bedwell. I'm not working on any art today because I don't. But I did I did just turn in a script for a science fiction mythology based epic. So.
Man, if I didn't have a day job.
Right. Alrighty. So we'll get into it with the regular icebreaker. But first, something funny I was ran into. Well, just perusing the YouTubes. Camille Nanjiani, who plays Kingo in the new Turtles movie, was talking about how the first month he put on the costume, or however long, paraphrasing, he didn't realize he was putting the pants on backwards. So
I have that trouble too.
Yeah. So I have to imagine, like, with all these superhero costumes, it's either it's got to be incredibly comfortable or this super awkward now with all these superhero movies happening.
So wait, did you say turtle movie? Is that what? Wait, did I hear this wrong?
No, Eternals.
Oh, the Eternals.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I saw Turtles movie. I'm like, they're making a new Ninja Turtles movie. Wait, when did this happen?
Wait.
Again?
I'm waiting for my favorite Ninja Turtle movie was the besides the original one, which I liked. Yes. I thought was the closest to the comic. Was a CGI animated one. There was like a one-off. I think it was just called TMNT.
Yeah.
That to me was the closest I think they got to like the Turtles I read in the comics. I know I'm never gonna get the original comics on screen, so I'm looking for things that come close.
No, they were gritty.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I really got into was screen wise was the old Nickelodeon cartoon, not the new Nickelodeon cartoon, the old one.
The Turtles in Time, or
there was a I think
I think it led into Turtles in Time, but it yeah.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, there was one they did. They actually did even I think it was the one. It was CGI, and they did like a some sort of crossover thing where they went to different dimensions, and one of the dimensions was actually drawn like the old Ninja Turtle comics. There was like a little that I thought was actually a pretty cool cartoon.
Yeah.
I tried to read some of the new comics from IDW. They were okay. I don't know. I'm just I just go back and read the originals. Of course, I've never read City at War, which is a huge 12-part arc that ended the Turtles. I never read that. I just need to go back and buy and read that.
Right.
I ended it at I think it was.
You mean it set them up to be rebooted again?
No, the original series. It was. This is the original series way
I'm
back
just
in
kidding.
80s.
Anyway.
Yeah. But no, they had to return to New York, which was great. And then they had this. They killed Shredder, and then there was like this big vacuum, and there was this war for New York, and that was like the last series that ended the series. I do actually really want to read the Last Ronin book, because I heard that was actually supposed to be a part of the original series that they actually planned this and never got around to. So I'd be curious to know how much, if that connects, if that's just a straight continuation of the original series or a continuation of the new sort of series by IDW. But it looks really cool.
For sure. Alrighty. Well, the regular icebreaker, we'll get into it. What have you guys been reading, watching, playing, listening to, staring at through windows afar? Start with you, Quentin Bedwell.
Well, I watched the 2 episodes of Yellowstone last night.
Okay.
That's one with Kevin Costner, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It's the Game of Thrones, modern day Game of Thrones with cowboy hats and rodeo. It's actually good.
Is it?
It's actually stellar. Yeah, it's actually really good. Even if you're not, it won't take you very long to get through if you're not a cowboy person. It explains stuff, so you learn, and really, you forget about that not too long into it, and you just really get into the story of it. It's gritty. I'll go ahead and warn you there. It's gritty. When I said it's it's like Game of Thrones. It's a lot like Game of Thrones. It's not as doesn't show as much nudity and all that kind of stuff, but it does from time to time. A lot of language, a lot of
what
violence.
Channel is it on?
I believe it is I watch it on Prime. I can't remember where it actually comes on.
I'm like, they show nudity. I thought that was on a network station.
No, it's like I don't even know. I know it may be Showtime, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Well, I watch it on Prime because I have Prime, and but there's 2 episodes up right now. I would not watch these episodes though. I would go back if you're going to watch it. I'd go back to episode 1 and start from scratch. Because
how many seasons is it?
It's in its 3rd or 4th season.
Oh, wow. I just
started watching it again, and they've been on hiatus for like a year and a half
because of COVID.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so I haven't kept up. If you would have asked me that when I was watching it before, I'd have been able to tell you everything you needed to know about it.
Yeah. Is there stuff that you're even watching it going like, I don't remember this? Like,
not at all. Once we started watching, I remembered everything because it really. You know how some shows they kind of leave you off. Oh, such and such is gonna die or might die or man, they just take everybody to the hospital in this finale. Holy moly!
I remember
everybody gets messed up.
That's
why I like this show.
Huh? Oh no, I remember there was I never saw this, but I heard there was like an ending to an old soap opera, and I can't. And like they're replacing the characters, some ending, and it was like they drove all the characters over this hill, and they got in a car crash, and they all died. The end. Like that's how they ended it. Just like I don't know if it was like they didn't know how to end it, or if it was a big kind of fu to the creators, or what? But I was like, really? And I'm like, yeah, that's how they did it. I'm like, oh.
And I agree with Tommy there. Ted Lasso is great.
Isn't that the one about the coach guy?
Yeah, Tottenham.
Yeah.
It started out. I think it started out just as a commercial about a football coach who goes to England to teach or to coach soccer with the Tottenham Hotspurs, and then Apple TV picked it up and turned it into a show.
Interesting, because he's an American football coach teaching English rugby or football. Or is it soccer?
It's soccer. It's soccer. Yeah. It's
soccer. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. The Tottenham Hotspurs.
I wanted to clarify something from last week too. When I said I was listening to Injustice, I'm not talking about the animated. I've heard a lot of bad things about the animated. I'm talking about I went to the Comics Explained and was listening to it on there.
Okay.
And that's why I said it was pretty good. That other stuff, I don't know what's going on with the animated thing. I haven't seen it, but from everything I've heard, it's not good.
Yeah.
Did you ever play the video game at all?
I did, but briefly. And it was really good, and I was going to buy it, and it was one of those like Fallout 4 that I was going to buy.
And just never got around
to Witcher the same way. And things just didn't line up. I got busy, or
I don't know.
Once it passes its time, like if I don't get it in that window, I just too many spoilers, too many people talking about it, and too many, I usually don't play it after that.
I'm surprised you got anything done with the last quarter of college with Fallout 4 being the thing.
I know, dude. That I was so looking forward to it. I watched that thing until it dropped, and then when it did, I just couldn't. I was working so many hours, I just could not get to it, and I hated it too. And then by the time I did, I just wasn't interested.
I never get into the Skyrim Fallout games. I don't know. I played Skyrim in VR, and that was really cool. But I kept going into like these caves and killing stuff, and I was like, I felt like all I was doing was going in the caves and killing things.
Man, I put really so many hours in it. I think
my friend loves it. I have a friend who just loves the Skyrim, and
my daughter loves it. She grew up playing Skyrim. That's how old it is.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, they've been peddling that thing forever. Like this new system was coming out of Skyrim. You don't say. Well, I first got it on PS3, and they never would release the DLC. So then I broke down and I bought an Xbox 360, which, by the way, was way after it had first come out. I mean, way after. Okay, so when I bought the 360, I went ahead and bought all these other games that I had missed because I used to play Xbox before the 360. And I got all the Halos, all the Gears of War, and I was like, I'm going to play all these AAA titles and catch up. I got to play in Skyrim, and they're just sitting there in the shelf, and I've never played them. I got to play in Skyrim, and I played through the DLCs, and then I saw you could do all the modding, so I got it for PC. Yeah.
So
did you guys?
I bought it on 3 platforms.
Yep.
Did you guys ever play it in virtual reality?
Nope.
I touched it a little bit on VR, but that's not.
It's pretty impressive.
For
what it was, I was like, and I've actually thought about going back there, but again, I got so much to do. I can barely get through like a 10-hour game, let alone a 200-hour game. So that one may just have to pass. Which unfortunate, because I didn't mind it, and VR was really cool. But
the Bethesda game's really weird because you can do the main quest. Like if you ignore all the side stuff, you can do the main quest in like 5 hours.
Yeah, you can just cut right through it.
But they're really time efficient if you just do one quest line. But they're designed to be like, if you want to live out your fantasy of being the dean of the Magic College, you can go through a career in Magic Academia.
It is like it's like, do you have OCD? Yeah, maybe a little. Have I got a game for you? Right. It's like, no. That's kind of what it came down to. I'm like, I'm playing through Psychonauts 2, and there's still all these little collectibles that I know literally don't really do anything. I mean, they do something, but it's not like really necessary to complete the game. But my OCD is like, well, you got to get them all, and I'm like, yeah, I know. This is why I can't play these games anymore.
And
this is why we can't have nice things.
Yeah, pretty much.
There's only ever really been one Dune game infra, and that was a old school strategy game pre
there was. My friend used to play that.
Yeah. We may get something more in the near future. For whatever reason, science fiction MMOs typically don't do as well. They don't last as long.
Yeah.
But there is a tabletop role-playing game set in Dune, which is doing rather well at the moment. And Gale Force 9 just re-released the classic Dune board game. But,
did they?
Yep.
Okay.
But yeah, no real video game adaptations of Dune, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, which is kind of weird. I mean, you would think like if you made like a Civ game or something, like an updated Civilization game, you would just clean up with Dune because that's totally ripe for that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think was the original strat game. I think you could actually. I remember my friend playing it. It was not more of a tower defense, but almost like a way to make money, and you harvest spice, and you sometimes you get attacked by giant worms. I remember he really liked it.
Yeah.
So that was like in the mid 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a long time ago.
The last two games I was really into was ESO, Elder Scrolls Online.
Naturally.
Did that for 2 straight years. Loved it. I still love it, but I haven't been able to return to it, and nor will I, because that game is like a black hole. Any MMO. Another one was Diablo 3. Love that game. And, I cursed the guy who told me, you need to play this. I went in and I told him, look, I'm looking for a game that I can play with my family. And he's like, this is the one you need right here. This is the one you need. I was like, I don't know, because I don't usually like that perspective, And man, we got to playing it. We got so addicted to that game.
Oh, like the top-down perspective.
Yeah. It's kind of at an angle.
Mm-hmm.
What do you call that?
Isometric.
Yeah, isometric. Other than that, DayZ. Not the standalone. I do have the standalone, but DayZ the mod, and it got a lot of flack for bugs, but that's because a lot of people reviewed it at the beginning.
Yeah,
and they just hadn't had that stuff worked out. But it never lost that kind of designation, so that was all right with me. I enjoyed it. But anyway,
I do.
Infrafan says, I got Skyrim on my toaster.
Yes.
I know. It's like Doom. They actually just put Doom on the original Doom. I think they put it like on a thermometer or something.
Yeah, you can do that on a smart fridge and also on a TI calculator.
Yeah, something like that. I remember when that game was cutting edge. That was like, can your computer run Doom, the original Doom? And now it's like, it's on your watch or whatever. I'm like, yeah, I figured.
And for fan, I know that I'm going to sound nuts here because I don't know, but I didn't know that Steam was doing that, making a handheld.
Yeah, they did the Steam box.
Yeah.
Which
I know that.
Yeah, and then they are instead of doing linear optimization, they're doing horizontal optimization. So they're horizontal as opposed to vertical. So now they're trying to then make that technology smaller, more portable, and then from there go vertical.
Yeah,
go vertical.
I saw. I mean, I don't know. I saw it was called. There's no name. Like, it's not Steam Portable. There's actually like a name for it now, isn't there?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
So they're trying to be a trailblazer like Nintendo, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they did
shake up the market.
Not Oculus, the Vive. I know is their system, which I don't know if that thing is still very active. I think Oculus Quest, kind of like stuck in the market longer than Vive. I'm not sure if Vive is supported that much anymore, which you don't really need to support. I mean, it's just a headset. I mean, as long as you got the games to go with it, it's the games itself. The headset's just a display device. But I did get to play the Vive. That was That's pretty cool. Boy, you need room for that. I mean, you need to clear out space and stuff to do it. It's pretty cool when you get it working and set up. I thought that was like, because it gives like a 5 foot by 5 foot square that you can actually do the VR in. That was pretty cool.
All right, I'm gonna say we put a pin in this. I'm gonna need to get like a cork board and just each subject we derail on the pin for later. So start pinning things to the cork board so we may have like a filler episode we can just pull things off the board to get back to.
We ought to set up a point system for who can get us back on topic. You know?
All right. But we are 25 minutes in, which is halfway through the first hour of the subject. So our first subject. So we'll finish up. Aaron, what have you been ingesting this week?
Like again, trying to be finishing up Cyclones. But I've honestly been slammed with so much work that I've actually been stuck to the computer. Mm-hmm. So I've not been ingesting as much as I would like to.
That's right.
Still reading Blade of the Immortal. Enjoying that. Actually been watching Seinfeld because I'd never seen it.
Yeah.
And I'd heard about it, so I've been listening to Seinfeld episodes while I work.
Yes.
What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, Seinfeld's a hit. I like Elaine. Lou, she's always funny. Jerry Seinfeld just never really, his humor was okay. I never really got into his humor, but I like the guy who played Kramer, even though I know what happened to him on stage. You know, we all know, but I still think he was funny in the show. George
I don't know what
drives
happened.
me nuts.
He said some choice words.
Yeah, he said some racist words to a heckler. Pretty much ended his career in one night.
Not lightly racist either. Just full blown.
Yeah. He kind of went just off, and that I think you can actually find a video on this. Not promoting this, but that's where I saw it was a video. Somebody recorded it, I think, and then of course it was, and then that's why you just never hear from him. But I think he's funny in the show. I like it. It's definitely. I mean, I do remember. He did say that the show is literally about nothing. Like, what is the show? It's like just about
that's one thing they kept on saying, is a show about nothing.
Because Jerry's very fed up with kind of like sitcoms having like very propped up situations, or is very like everything felt very orchestrated or like higher than stuff. He's like, it's like that's funny moments, but no one can relate to this. Like, if you want something relatable, just have like people like scraping by in a big city, and that's it.
And pretty much he and Peter David pretty much just wrote all of their stuff that happened to them and stuff that they actually did, or and actually people in their lives like Kramer and not Elaine, but that's pretty interesting.
So far, I mean, I definitely take it for what it is. I mean, it's definitely enjoying it, entertaining. I mean, again, it is sometimes still. I watch these. I'm like, I remember all this, like having phone calls and the way those cell phones. I guess I remember all this lifestyle.
Yes.
So I don't know how many kids would watch and be like, they really like. Yeah, I remember all this stuff. So, my favorite sitcom was Family Ties. Always has been. But I know Seinfeld was huge when it came out, and so I did want to eventually just like, okay, you know what? I watched it as a kid, never really got it. Like, I didn't get it. Decided, I'm giving it a shot. It's I'm a little older, so I think maybe the humor relates. Like, okay, I can see this. I've been through life a little bit. I can kind of see this. But yeah, it's not bad. I know it's a classic. I know that.
Yep. I have been reading X-Force Volume 2 by Ben Piercy, as well as X of Swords by Hickman and Tiny Howard. And
Tiny Howard?
Yep. Her name's I think I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Tiny, but it's Tini. But like the only other way you could say it would be like Tinny, but that doesn't make sense. And playing a lot of Elite Dangerous. And
isn't it Elite Dangerous? Is that like a real-time strategy game?
It's a space simulator. So
okay,
so it's kind of, you get dropped into the a built to scale Milky Way galaxy with 400 billion systems that you can jump to.
Yeah.
And it's you get some guide through, but it's all right. Choose a career path and go. But yeah, that's what I've been doing. Just been doing some exploration and some bounty hunting to save up for a larger ship.
I'm gonna buy myself a new spaceship.
Exactly.
I did actually get a new figure, a toy that I actually I don't know if anyone here has ever heard of a toy company called Joy Toy.
Yep, I sure have.
I did actually find one of their mechs in a store, which I'd never seen. I've seen them online, but I'd never seen one in life. And I grabbed that one. And strangely enough, it's almost built like a McFarlane action figure. I thought it'd be more model-based, but it's made from very sturdy plastic and stuff. Almost like a straight-up action figure, but it's a mech. Really cool. And my nephews are really into Titanfall. And I'm like, well, if you like Titanfall, you'll love these things because they're literally Titanfall mechs. That's what they made. And they're really, really cool.
I got a new figure. I love it too. Let me see if I can. Tell me if you know who this is.
Wait. Oh, that's the.
I am not a tree.
Yeah, he's an ant. His tree beard, right?
Tree beard.
Would you find
that?
that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he's pretty big, but I got the big one on the way. Got the big one. It's like 15-inch one. He's like huge. What
is it? Who made that?
This is Toy Biz. This thing is like 2002. And I had to get it because Diamond Select has started putting out Lord of the Rings figures. They look so good, so movie accurate. The face sculpts are just, I mean, they actually got them. Those old Toy Biz ones, they were kind of hit and miss, with some of them, but not very good even at best. But these are amazing. And I started getting them. And I was like, it's going to be a while before they, start dropping a lot of these waves. So I'm just going to, there's a few figures that will translate over like him. He is super detailed, that guy. And like the horses, there's horses. I'll show a couple of them at the end, closer to the end of the show. They're really good though. I'm really proud of them.
Cool. I can show you really quick. I have it like literally sitting right next to me. This is the sort of mech thing that Joy Toy does, but there's actually like a pilot.
Yes,
they are
so cool, and you can buy those action figures, and they have a lot of accessories and details.
They have a ton of stuff. Like you can take these little
on those things.
Grenades off his hip.
And
he has like these like movable cannons or whatever. But like, they're super posable. I'm like, oh my god, posable. But it's really cool. So I mean, like I said, if you like mechs and if you even remotely enjoyed the game Titanfall, like this is a toy line for you. And then they sell like packs of individual figures. I don't know if there's a storyline that goes with the toy line or something.
That's what I wondered because the figures look so good. They look so interesting.
They have Warhammer 40K Space Marines.
That's that was that Joy Toy. I know McFarlane.
That's Joy Toy,
Okay, they do. Okay, because I know they make all. You can just go to Joy Toy website. And they have like all this crazy stuff.
You can also order them on Big Bad Toy Store. They're a good place. I love their Loot Crate option. It's what it is when you buy something or when you pre-order something, instead of paying shipping, instead of them sending it out as it comes in, all the stuff you purchase, you can have them hold it in one for like 80 something days. And that way it'll all ship together, and they have a flat rate shipping of $4. So you put all that stuff in your loot pile, and then for $4 you can have it shipped. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
and shipping right now is ridiculous. So
yeah.
I
just pre-ordered something supposed to come out next year. I don't know if you guys know Mos Pieta, Robotech New Generation over here. I don't know if you guys know the Cyclones. Tim might know these. the Robotech Cyclones.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they actually finally put up for pre-order Rook Bartley, which would be the American name. I can't remember her. I think her name was just Barkley in the Most Pieta. But they never made a figure of her yet, so I was super excited. I was like, "Are they gonna make a Rook Bartley?" And they just put a pre-order. I'm like, "Yes, they are making her." And so I was like, pre-ordered that thing immediately. I'm like, I'm not missing that because they've always made like Scott Bernard and the first two. There's 4 characters. They've always made the first 2. They finally made Lancer, which was a blessing, and then making Rook. And I'm like, yes.
Well, Infrafan says he's got like 37 pre-orders at BBTS. Yeah, I had to actually just go through, especially after I started putting my stuff out, and I just had to go through and get rid of a lot of pre-orders, and I just had to stop the madness somewhat. Yes. I've got to cut down the amount of lines that I'm collecting.
Yeah, this is like, and instead of the Joy Toy mech line, I bought this one. I'm like, I'll buy 2 more and make like a 3-squad unit. So sometimes instead of
that's how it starts.
Collecting line, I'll be like, well, I'm just gonna collect ones that look cool and then just kind of think of them as like a unit.
Then the next thing you know, you got 6 stormtroopers.
I know.
You got you got 10 Cobra Vipers and classified. You got 10 troopers. Yeah.
Over the weekend, Quentin messages me at like 2 in the morning. I have to organize my wall.
Yeah. Well, that's how long it took because I finally just really got down in there and started putting my stuff out, and it was I didn't get to bed till like 3. So
it's actually really fun organized, especially displaying stuff. I get lost in doing that. Like, it's not really work if you're like posing your figures and displaying them and organizing stuff. That it gets fun.
That's like the problem with like wargaming too, is you get all these armies and you're like, okay, well I have to keep them like on trays so I can like bring them to the tournament. But if I retire units, then I guess I gotta make a diorama now.
Yeah, and so that gets really, really fun.
Yeah.
Who's the other? There was, besides the Joy Toy, there was like when I bought Hot Toys, when I got into those, I'm like, okay, well, for the Avengers, I'm only buying Captain America, Iron Man, and Thor. And then for the Justice League of Superman, like Batman and Wonder Woman, like the Trinity. And then I stopped. Because I'm like, you can go down. Hot Toys are cool, man. And man, you can go down the rabbit hole fast. I did get my Predators because I think they were kind of started out doing Predators. That was one of their main lines. So I got the 3 Predators that I liked. And then no, I still look at Hot Toys, but I'm like, I can't go back down there. They're expensive. They're super cool.
Yeah, they are.
They're expensive.
I just can't afford those.
Oh God, yeah, they're an investment for sure.
Yeah.
All right. We got like 20 minutes to get through our first subject.
What is our first subject?
So our first subject is the business of sales. So I thought you were listening to a nerd show talking about comics and entertainment. We're about to get super nerdy and talk about sales numbers.
Jam.
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to read that. I had that thing online, and I did not get a chance to read it. I take it. Was it an article about sales or just current sales numbers?
So bit of both. So Comichron, for those of you who are uninitiated, is the go-to place for sales numbers in the comics publishing industry. They got numbers directly from Diamond, and we'll see how that goes as companies shift away from Diamond. But I believe they also do get numbers directly from Penguin and Simon and Schuster.
Yeah.
Because they are considered a business analyst, so they can get direct reporting on those numbers, especially if businesses are publicly owned and required to disclose their numbers. So they got the 2020 year-end results in for all channels calculated, and with context with the up to 8 years before that, and we also got the September of this year numbers in. For those of you unfamiliar with is a big month because that is when you get in the numbers for the end of summer sales. And summers, especially in comics for a while, were kind of a big boom. And then in a little bit 2012 on, you had something kind of like a summer slump where it actually kind of inverted, which changed in 2016 which was a big year for comics because that was DC Rebirth, and that actually blew up sales numbers by a ton because people were hoping to get the actual reboots that they didn't get in New 52 or in Infinite Crisis. Yeah. So the big headline here is comics and graphic novel sales hit a new high in 2020. In the pandemic year, there actually was we broke records, which is interesting considering the problems we had with distribution and shipping, and also like availability of shops. Are they open? Are they not? How many people can you enter shop on time? But also not all that surprising given the availability of buying comics off of Amazon, Comixology, and a bunch of people with free time and perhaps trying to grab onto whatever little bits of serotonin they can with some nostalgia. So yeah, we hit a new high in 2020. US and Canada did a 6% year-over-year increase in 2020 over 2019. So they pulled in an aggregate 128 billion that year. 2019 was 121. 2018 was 1.095 billion. There's a slump in 2017, where 2016 is actually higher than that, 10.85. And then, only 6 years prior, we weren't even pulling in $1 billion a year. We were at 935 million in 2014. So that's kind of interesting that 2020 is a year that not only was it a record year, but it was a sizable year-over-year increase, being that it's anything more than 4%, which, I could get into market analytics in my day job. 4% is kind of a golden rule for returns. All right, so...
I need a nap, Tim. Go for it.
Yeah. So rate of inflation, you're looking roughly, there's an exact number there, but roughly you're looking at 2% year over year. So to have your credit be worthwhile, you want your debt to be at less than 4%, which is less than double the rate of inflation. So if you have car loans, home loans, anything under 4%, that is optimal. Anything that is in savings, you want that to be that at 4 or up to 8% ideally. The average market return year over year is 8%. So if you are investing and your portfolio is yielding 8% or more year over year, you're winning. You are winning the market. That's good. So these are kind of our golden numbers. There's probably something Fibonaccian in there. Random. Nothing is random. Chaos isn't real. So you have 2, 4, and 8%. These kind of like these golden numbers. So to have a year over year return of 6%, that is substantial, because that means that the comics market is at a point where we're almost reaching optimal returns on investment for the things going into that year.
Now, I hate to ask the question, is this related to just American comics, like Western comics?
This is the American market aggregate. So yeah, so we I don't think we get numbers on Mango that much unless they are carried by any of the people who distribute through Diamond. But yeah, so that's kind of the that's kind of the cool weird thing about all this is that Western comics are had a good year in possibly one of the worst years we've had as a globe in a while.
So that's kind of cool. I mean, and did they break it down? I know maybe not, but like by floppies versus graphic novels.
They do. I'm glad you asked. Quentin, is it all right if I boot you off the screen share for a little bit?
Yeah.
All right. Let me pull
Quentin, get out of there. What's wrong with you?
Hogging it.
Dog. Come on. All right. Here, we'll go to screen share. Share screen. Yes. We're going to do a specific window. Yeah, exactly. I mean, if art is escapism, then 2020 was the year for escapism. So we have our breakdown here. Cool, you can't see my cursor. So this is our bar graph of general sales over time. Again, collected through Comichron, ICV2, and that includes Diamond, Penguin, Simon & Schuster. So the channel format is really interesting because this has been a pattern that's been developing over the last couple of years, and I've been thinking about this quite a bit. So this happened in 2019, it carried on in 2020, and it looks like in 2021 it's going to be about the same. Where traditional bookstores are outpacing comic stores.
That's a new one.
Yeah, so if you look at 2016, you had comic stores at near 600 million in revenue, whereas comics sold through traditional book channels were like 400. Those numbers are reversed now.
Wow.
Yeah, it's still increased all across the board, but that split is just about reversed.
Interesting. I wonder why that is. I mean, besides the pandemic, maybe.
I think it also has to do with the MCU and availability, because there's a lot more bookstores in America and Canada than there is comic stores. Okay, but those bookstores have the same access channels, even more so now due to Penguin and Simon & Schuster taking over more of comics publishing.
That, and I also can know that, not to interrupt you. Well, yeah, because I like to interrupt you. That I know there was a lot of big push to support small businesses during COVID.
Absolutely,
so, since a lot of small businesses were bookstores, you could see that increase because of that tend to do that.
Everyone went to their mom and pop shops. And I think also with the explosion of the MCU and the weird people who like the DCEU, Dean Zachary, I'm looking at you.
What are you talking about? The DCU movies are my favorite movies. And no, I'm not kidding about that.
I know you two do. But
I mean, it's not my fault you like crap movies. I mean, if that's what you want to like, go for it. I don't.
There's a lot more kind of mainstream adoption of comics, but they don't necessarily have the same introduction that we may have had, where like collecting an entire trade wasn't necessarily like what you do at the moment. You'd walk into your 7-Eleven, you'd go to the spinner rack, you'd pull whatever was in. Like, right, I have Spider-Man 52. I have no idea what happened before this. Let's go. And that was, and also things were a lot more contained to a single issue. But now I think a lot of people are going to get the idea of, well, if I go to my bookstore, they have these big trades of comics. And so, I mean, if I want to get a lot all in one go, it's kind of like buying the bundle.
And it's funny to think like there were actually seem to be a lot more people buying comics to read than just to collect. Which also seems to be the trend, that they're actually reading them. Which, I mean, again, is important.
As a writer, I appreciate.
Yeah, because most people just buy comics to collect. I mean, I remember like my grandfather was never, he didn't, comics are for kids. And when they had the death of Superman, he bought that issue just because he thought it would be worth money. Right. Not knowing it's like, you and everyone else is buying it, so it's not going to be worth any money, but thanks for supporting the cause.
Right.
Well, my motivation for buying the New 52 was, and I was kind of spotty on before the New 52, like in DC. I would pick up some from time to time, and I would follow a storyline. There was a lot that I wanted to get, but there was just so much content that I knew I would be jumping in on, and so much that I'd missed. The New 52 was a way that I felt like I could start collecting them and get them all, and then go from there, and I would be able to start from square one. And I did good for a while. I got through the first, I was collecting Justice League and something else. I can't remember now because it's been a while back. But I stayed up with Justice League up to 5, I think. And then for some reason, I could not find it anywhere. Like, I could not find them after that. And I looked all over, and that's before I was really ordering stuff online very much. So then that was back to, Well,
Even before like digital comics and online ordering, if I was ever doing floppies, I had to go in and like do the subscription at the counter type deal where like the store would reserve your stuff, or if they weren't ordering it, then they'd be able to put it in orders for you.
we had a place here, but the guy was a little bit of a skadoocher, so I didn't ever go there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I've definitely had my fair share of comic shops.
I was religious about going there for a while, but man, that dude, he was just just a little too much. Just watching the way he treated other people and asking him to do anything like that, was I don't know. It's just like, is this guy going to be in a good mood today, or
I hate that. Yeah,
I was just like, you know what? Never mind. Good luck with your business, sir. And he did close down because he was such a douche.
Yeah.
So, and for what's interesting is this is just the direct market, and that direct market means anything that goes to from publishers through distribution chain to stores, not including direct to consumer or crowdfunded sales. This is just publicly owned companies that have to report these numbers, and a firm that goes through and compiles the analytics. So 2020 was probably even a better year than you realize if we take into account Kickstarter numbers and Indiegogo numbers and all that.
Yeah.
And then the other interesting number, which is also a trend which has been increasing. This one's a little bit longer than the bookstores overtaking comic stores, but this one's been going on since the turn of the decade, really. Graphic novels overtaking floppies. And graphic novels include trades.
Yeah.
And now it's at the point where these numbers aren't even really close. Graphic novels last year pulled in $835 million in revenue. Floppies pulled in $285 million in revenue.
People thought, are you going to get rid of floppies? I eventually think you'll get to a point that it'll just be basic economics that most people won't get. Floppies are more for collectors, filling in issues. And once the collectability of them diminishes, people are like, well, if I just want to read it, I'll wait for a trade.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I did with Keenan Black. It's, it was the summer event, but I got it in fall because I can read it in one go now, and I already have some the Venom tie-in stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And that was, I mean, we've talked about this on the show before, but unless it's my bread and butter X-Men or someone I know and want to support, in those cases, I'll actually, reserve the floppy or whatever at my store. But in that case, if it's anything else, I just get the trade because it's more convenient.
It is. You don't have to wait on it either. It's kind of like binge watching a show.
Yeah.
A lot of times I won't watch a show when it's coming on, which, I just don't have time. But when I do have time, I like to binge watch, and that's what I do. And that's what trades have done for me.
Yeah. They allow. I sometimes will buy floppies if I find the artwork or the story interesting. Just, this looks kind of cool. I'll just try it out. But a lot of times, most of the stuff I buy is not very invigorating. I never make it past issue 2.
If you can get a fun variant cover,
yeah, I don't know. A lot of stories it's like kind of cool. Then I read the story and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I get that a lot. My friend Tom, he's like that. Yeah, I check out books from graphic novels in the library, and every time I read something, I'm just like, okay. Nothing really just blows him away. And he asked, because he was like, do you have that problem? I'm like, yeah. I mean, every once in a while, there's something like, this is just awesome. But it's the majority. I'm just like, okay, that was cool. I guess.
I occasionally get a comic that does immediately make you go man, I freaking love comic books. And that's actually what X of Swords is doing for me. I'm actually reading the omnibus on that, the hardback, but
okay.
I found the variant cover at Walmart in their they have the buy 3 Marvel comics in a bundle thing they have at Walmart on the on their turn rack now. So I'm like, all right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
There was some independent there was one independent called Sword Edge of the Sword, or it was on Indie Planet. That was cool. I like that one.
Yeah.
And that was kind of just because I know it was one guy making this, and I'm like, well, this is impressive for and I actually like the story, and that's been on my list to go back and get the last 3 issues. because he did 4. So I like that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm definitely a comic book guy that likes to search comic book stores and comic book sites to find the diamond in the rough.
Yeah.
The story I've never seen, or that's what I'm always looking for. Like, and I'm always just like, oh, I want to find that. Maybe it's just me trying to capture that stupid experience of like first discovering comics as a kid. I'm trying to find it in somebody else's storyline or something. I don't know.
Sure. All right. And yeah, our summer numbers coming in. Well, I have our numbers in for September, and kind of unsurprisingly, the number one ordered title is Star Wars: War of the Bounty Hunters. Star Wars title with Boba Fett on the front, on the tails of the Book of Boba Fett and the Mandalorian. It's going to do well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so these are the numbers we were looking at the direct market. So again, this is publishers and distributors that go to brick and mortar stores. They're not including Kickstarters or direct to consumer sales. Comixology and Marvel Unlimited, DC, whatever their online platform is called, are also included in these.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we have our scaling graph here, and they was considered to be the end of the summer slump was that 2011 New 52, and that got blown out by 2016 with DC Rebirth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then 2019, we had another. It looked like we were headed for another summer slump, which was interesting. But then 2021, 2020, if it's not included in this number, that's because it's considered stagnant or comparable. So 2020 is somewhere between these two graphs. But 2021, our recovery. So this last summer we were looking like we were probably going to be scaling past the record we set in 2020, which is kind of interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah, adjusted for inflation, 2016 was still a little bit better of a summer, but this is still, kind of an insane number for comics to put out when, it's not necessarily your go-to like summer industry. A lot of people think that.
No.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's because the movie theaters were closed, so you didn't have those blockbuster movies to go to.
It could have been a contributing factor. But also there is like a bit of there is definitely a pattern there. So we were showing growth, but I think not having the same style of movies served as an accelerant to that pattern.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see if there is any sort of elasticity in that market, and if there's like a bounce back or a snap back next year, or if it will stay stagnant or like a slower increase. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of, last year is obviously a very different year. So considering what was closed and not closed in the state of our country and the world, you could see like, would these repeat themselves again?
Yeah.
Bro? Maybe not. But obviously, I'd be curious to know, and I don't know if they break it down in their digital versus physical sales, just because people were stuck at home, so people just buying digital stuff because it was right at their computer.
I saw that on the thing, and they did break it down.
Yeah.
And it was still physical copies. Is that right,
Yeah.
Tim?
Really? Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Now they did sell a lot on over like I think nearly 2 million or something.
Nearly 2 million on online, but yeah, it's still leading is still. Let's see if they have it on there or if they just have their shares down. Looks like they just have the breakdown in shares, but yeah, it was like something like 2 million in digital, but it was still mostly physical. So like month total 51.21 million compared to year over year 47 million in 20 or in that's not even year over year compared to the last year of kind of noted growth 2019 47 million. So interesting growth there. Yeah.
Do you think Do you think this will continue to grow now that movies are coming a little more back into the main? They're starting to get kind of underway.
Oh, well, I think I think growth will probably slow. I don't think we'll have like a drastic snapback
No,
because
I don't.
I think the MCU did its job essentially in popularizing and making comics mainstream.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and we have we're getting through kind of the I'm going to call them the true nerd movies, like Shang-Chi, Eternals, kind of the characters that like you probably only care about if you read the books first.
My friend asked me, I saw the Eternals. She's like, "Did you ever see these characters?" I'm like, "I know, like I think Jack Kirby created them." I was like, "That's the extent of my knowledge of these characters."
Yes. I forgot his name. His last name. The guy who created Eros and Pip the
Star Fox guy.
Yeah. What's his name? But he had an interview and he didn't know who I forget his name, but the kid from One Direction who's now playing Star Fox, Eros.
That's it. That guy's from One Direction. I have no idea.
Harry Styles, yeah, but he said he didn't know who he is, but he's like, yeah, now I have Harry Styles on my drawing playlist.
It's funny because I remember they brought out Star Fox, and my friend I thought that was a video game series. I'm like, it is. There was a character Marvel card called Star Fox, and what was his? And she's like, what was his deal? And I'm like, well,
he was very creepy.
Yeah, he was just. Yeah, I was kind of like, I don't really know how to explain it to you. He's just kind of this sort of Errol Flynn type character, and I don't. What was his power? Can he affect emotions or something?
Yes, he's he's the ultimate empath in that he empaths others. He can manipulate people's emotions.
That's what it was.
Yes.
I knew it was because I remember even hearing the power, and I was like, "What does this guy do?" Even as a kid.
Jim Starlin.
Okay.
Yeah, and he is someone. He's like, yeah, I had no idea who Harry Styles was, but now I'm listening to him regularly.
Yeah, the same thing at the end. I did figure out I'm such a nerd. I saw the last end credit. I'm like, oh, the Black Knight. And again, my friend's like, who's the Black Knight? And I'm like, that's a long answer. I'm like, just look it up online.
Which is also with Blade. My hopes for an MI13 movie are coming closer, which means my hopes for a Peter Wisdom movie are coming closer.
I would love to see now out of doing Blades in there, I guess, and I don't think unless Disney, but I would love to see like a Midnight Suns.
That's honestly the thing they might do because we are getting Ghost Rider and Doctor Strange is already a pivotal character.
Did I hear something about Moon Knight also having a series or something?
Yes, Moon Knight's TV show is I think it's wrapped. I'm not entirely sure.
Was it the guy who played Poe in Star Wars?
Yeah, this guy who played Poe and who played Duke Leto Atreides, Oscar Isaac.
Oh yeah.
Well, you know what? I'm a lot more excited about it now. Because that guy's good.
He's good, and he said that it was like some of the most fun he's had on a set. So I am super stoked for it.
Yeah, I know some of Moon Knight. I thought Ghost. I actually didn't. I like the Ghost Rider movies are kind of hit or miss. The second one I think was the best because the way they portrayed the Ghost Rider.
It's gonna be really cool. What's his name? Is it Jesse, the one with the Charger?
No, so he's. So I think I'm not sure if they're going to do that. They put him.
Oh, that's what they said is the next confirmed Ghost Rider for the MCU.
Oh, they're going to do the one with the Charger.
Yeah.
I like that one, but I don't know. I just like it. Just
he could be on a tricycle and.
Yeah. I kind of like the motorcycle, but I mean they can switch. I mean I don't care who's the Ghost Rider. I just like and they can switch. I mean if they do the power, he can turn anything in the hellish vehicle. He could jump on a motorcycle or a car or whatever.
Exactly, yeah. I feel like couldn't say just put him on a tricycle.
Yeah, he's doing it. I'd be curious how. I'm surprised Marvel. I mean, Disney would go to Ghost Rider, considering. I mean, could be a potentially scary character if you do him right.
Mephisto. Mephisto.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't want to turn this into an MCU theory crafting podcast because I already do that on Keys to the Game, like theory crafting.
Did you guys see the Eternals movie? I mean, I assume
did.
Tim did.
Yes.
What was your take on it? Did you like it, or were you
I
like,
did not.
I liked it a lot. It wasn't formulaic, and it felt adult for like the first time in a Marvel movie, and it was people like experiencing emotion, and that was the driving factor of it. Was that people...
the first time I was like, hey, it's a Zack Snyder Marvel movie.
But it had moments where people were talking about their feelings earnestly, and like even the slapstick character Kango was able to drop between like comedy moments and like, no, this is a genuine emotion that a person would feel at this time.
Yeah. I actually didn't mind it. It really did remind me, not just more that the Zack Snyder stuff, which I like, but it did remind me a little bit of the Justice League, not the movies per se, but the team itself, because the Justice League has always been an allegory to the Greek gods.
Yeah, and
so the Superman, and then you have the Speedster, and I'm like, well, this is basically Marvel's version of the Justice League.
And Eternals like has always felt that way too, because it's always been about like, I mean, they're in the canon, they're the inspiration for the Greek gods, so they're always politicking. They're always like, the action comes second place to the fact that things need to be hashed out, and they need to decide whether or not they, as these godlike beings, can intervene or not.
It did the one thing, and maybe this is in the comics, so I don't know. I didn't read the comics. The powers seemed a little haphazard or weird. Like some power, I mean, they were meant to fight the deviants, and the whole time I'm watching the movie, and they're fighting, like, we're fighting the deviants. I'm like, the punk rock band, and I'm like, I just imagine the deviants as a bunch of these punk rock kids going like, you know what, screw Earth. I'm tired of this place, and like they got to be the parents that come down and smack the errant kids around. I guess it's just the word deviant and what it's taken as.
Yeah.
But it seemed a little like some of the powers are made for like helping, like some being defensive, and then some were just like random, like you can make illusions. And I always thought, like, if the Celestials did create this team just to combat the deviants, like, wouldn't they make it so the powers work a little more together?
Well, the fighting the deviants was part of their mission, but the total overall idea was just to encourage the growth of the intelligent species on that planet. So the Celestial inside could then consume that intelligence and wake up. And so some of their powers are combat based. For some of them, more kind of things you'd use to help develop that civilization. Very clearly in Festos, who they see him like create things from steam engines to the atomic bomb.
I mean, there's definitely like that's a Festus. I mean,
Ajax. They kind of don't really touch too much on her like secondary power, but part of her healing is also her ability to heal minds and souls, and so she is like the go-to leader. So she's very good at establishing herself as the head of a civilization to guide it forward.
Wouldn't it almost be Hera in Greek mythology?
Yes. So it's kind of tied in there, but also the fact that Ajax was the one who replaced Achilles, and then led the Greeks in his place, essentially.
Okay.
And then Sprite is good at encouraging the imagination and causing them to pursue arts and these other sort of brain searchy things.
The Sprite one was also weird just because it felt like, my friend even asked me, he's like, why'd they make her a kid? I'm like, because they're mean, I guess. Because
the Celestials are mean. They're like, when you get really deep into the lore, you realize that the Eternals were all just one big experiment that the Celestials kind of gave up on. Like, you guys are messed up anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of things like, why is she a kid? And I was always like, well, can they reproduce? Like, they're always like falling in love. I'm like, well, if they're supposed to be like robots.
Well, the reproduction is really weird with the Eternals, because that's how we got Thanos and Eros. There were Zeros was the prime Eternal in the comics. Of course, the parallel for Zeus. And his brother Alars decided that he wanted to actually be able to reproduce. But as a synthetic being, they're like strictly forbidden to do that. So he and a woman ended up leaving and ended up working with the Titan Kronos to create the Soul Bands, the Soul Rings, something like that, and Eternal Child. And they realized that actually ends up causing the deviant gene to become stronger, and they created Thanos.
Okay, because I knew Thanos was related to these characters.
Yeah, and so Thanos has always been kind of like the dirty secret of the Eternals, and because of that, they ended up locking Lars and his wife up in a place called the Exclusion Zone, where they were essentially they're just forced to watch the circumstances of the consequences of their decision, and it drove them insane. Lars burned out his eyes watching the suffering that Thanos caused, and he just sits eternally blind. It's very Greek.
I mean, obviously, it's definitely probably the most non-superhero movie I've seen them do, because it's much more mythological based and gods, which they're getting into that cosmic stuff, and I don't know if that's. I mean, it's cool to see, but I don't know if it's going to kind of bite him, because that's not very superhero-ish.
Well, I think they're kind of doing that to set up Kane the Conqueror, especially given that Black Knight, as part of him joining the Avengers, was fighting Kane.
I would love for them to do Kang, but after
Loki definitely set up Kane.
Yeah, looks up Kane. We got no Kane is confirmed for Ant-Man and Ant-Man 3. Ant-Man the Quantum Zone. But yeah, he's gonna come back. He's gonna come back in there. Played by the same guy who played him in Loki. And a lot of the characters are setting up for people who have had a long history with Kang the Conqueror. And so I think bringing in the Celestials and the fact that they hinted at a higher judicial court that Arishem was taking them to, I think they're setting up a point where the Avengers will need help. Only way they can beat Kang, because he exists in every timeline as a shared, as like a Gestalt consciousness, is to take him to the Living Tribunal.
After what they
went to some deep Marvel lore, so if you don't read Marvel comics, I'm sorry.
I don't know. After what they did, that Thanos messing up his storyline so bad, I don't have much hope for Kang, but I hope they surprise me. Kang is pretty simple. I always liked the fact that Thanos was in love with death. They did away with that storyline, and I was like, you know what? I'm like, and I didn't understand why. I mean, because I just thought, well, maybe that's too dark for Disney movies. And then they go around and they're like, yeah, but we're going to make Blade. I'm like, well, if you're going to make Blade with vampires, I mean, then why are you taking off the death storyline with Thanos? That's
right.
And I don't have much hope for the Blade movie, just because I already have my Blade movie and it was amazing. Sure. And so I think that's one character that they should kind of leave alone, just because I can't see an un-R-rated Blade movie now.
I think that's what they're hoping for, because Marvel did say that if a movie is going to be R-rated, they'll make it R-rated. This is going to happen in Deadpool 3. But with Mahershala Ali, I liked him a lot in Alita, and I liked some of his other stuff, so I'm hopeful for him.
Blade is, I don't know. I mean, it was just the first Blade movie was just so came out of nowhere and was so cool. I can't see. And again, this is the same thing with the X-Men movies. Marvel is they're going to start running into a little bit of issues, and they're making movies that already have previous movies. The X-Men are great, but you have X-Men movies, so there's people going to be, if you have a source of comparison, you're not always going to win outright. Avengers had no source of comparison. Blade does have a source of comparison, and a lot of people really like the original. Yeah. So again, you just created an uphill battle for yourself. So
yeah, let's see if they can pull another Tom Holland and somehow. Well, I mean, it's not hard. That's not much harder to be better than the Raimi Spider-Man movies. To be honest, the bar's kind of low there. But I think for X-Men will be interesting, especially since, as far as we know, the plan is going to be to recast everyone.
I hope so. I hope they
I
totally get away from the last one. I did watch them, but watching them. What they just the continuity. I know I say it over and
Yeah.
over.
Oh,
It just
That's a
irked me
nightmare.
so bad.
yeah.
I can't even hardly stand it when a show replaces a character like with a different actor, and then you go back and retcon stuff, or you just don't even bother explaining stuff.
Mhm.
I don't
Well,
like that at all.
I
Um,
think I think with the X-Men movies, it was meant just to be like a trilogy,
Yeah.
just like a Star Wars type trilogy, and then Marvel comes in with this connected universe, and they were like, "Oh, we should do that," but you're trying to connect the universe that, at all intents and purposes, they close with the third movie.
Mhm.
So it's like, how do you? They tried to retcon it. Well, we need
and
to go Days of Future Past and rewrite it, and it's like, well, okay, that's not. You wrote it to be a closed. This is why, like this sometimes I had the problem with Star Wars. It's like
yeah,
Star Wars really was about Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader. Once you take them out,
Yes.
you have a universe, but the main storyline was about those characters, and they're trying to like, well, now we got the kids or whatever. It's like, yeah, but it's still, it really is about those core characters, and that was kind of unfortunately the way those movies worked. I think the X-Men movies didn't. They were trying to retcon it into a universe, and it didn't work because they got themselves in a bind, and that's what I think happened.
well, I just even like the last one that they made, the Dark Phoenix.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I uh I went to the movies and watched it. Hey, I supported it, because it's a comic book movie, and just as Infrafan was saying earlier about figures, we're very
Yeah.
spoiled in this age. We're very spoiled that we even get these hero movies. Because I remember growing up, and man,
oh yeah.
they couldn't make a good one. But there was one occasionally like Batman, or something like that. But anyway,
Steel
I,
featuring Shaquille O'Neal.
yeah. After I came off of the Marvel movies and then going to see Dark Phoenix, it just was not that good.
Yeah.
To me, it was fun, it was enjoyable for a night, but it's not anything that I go back to. Man, that was a cool movie. I got to buy all those figures. I got to buy some X-Men comics now. I got to, you know what I'm saying. I wasn't excited about any of it.
I actually didn't mind the Dark Phoenix one, just because I felt like I mean that storyline, like most X-Men fans, is pretty old, and I felt like the fact that they finally made her kill herself, I was like, okay, that's more in line with the original storyline, but still very far removed. You know, again, there was some I actually didn't mind the way the big fight scene on the train. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. They kind of combine the powers and stuff.
Well, that
Uh,
was another thing that I didn't really like about it is that here we're doing this again. Wasn't she the main,
I know.
antagonist in, one of the earlier movies? And
Yeah.
I was like, man, there's so much
Oh
rich
yeah.
storytelling that you could have pulled from, but you
Yeah.
are stuck on Phoenix.
That's
I don't get why, because it was. I mean, what the Phoenix Saga was. I mean, it was a run. I mean, I remember reading the run, but
yeah.
it was okay. But I mean, I know when they started redoing it, the movie for what it was okay. But again, this is like if Marvel comes out and like we're gonna put the X-Men and start with the Phoenix Saga. I'm like, I'm done. I'm done.
Yep. Honestly, I think if they do another Phoenix story in film, they need to jump straight into like AVX, like Avengers versus X-Men. Don't worry about like
Yeah.
keep internalize this. Make the Phoenix this thing that's always been inside Jean, and then it just becomes a larger problem. But I like it. My hot takes. If they're going to do more X-Men movies, don't do Phoenix Saga, or if you do, make it AVX. And for the Batman movies, let's just not touch the Joker for a while.
Yeah. Let's do anything else as a
Yeah.
huge rich. I mean,
Yep.
I do know out of all the X-Men movies, the Marvel, I will never see a Logan movie in the Marvel universe, just because that movie just captured that character in a
Mhm.
nutshell. And
I think-
so
I think
that,
it confirmed that one is in some way involved in the multiverse. Like it exists somewhere in the multiverse and like as canon.
but still, I
Yeah.
mean, you're never gonna. I mean,
Yet another one like it.
they don't. It's just a character study,
Yeah.
and I don't see the Marvel universe ever doing a very quiet, like
Mhm.
almost independent
Yeah.
character study type film. And so I just don't. I personally don't want the X-Men to come into the Marvel universe, just because I think the X-Men. I mean, even in the comics, you have the X-Men universe and you have the Marvel universe, and they've always been kind of separate. They still cross over, but they've been kind of separate because X-Men deal a little more seriously in family dramas. You know, it's more family drama, especially Claremont. And Claremont kept it separate for years because that was his own little world.
Yeah.
And then the Avengers are more like, you know, cosmic, you know, entities and fighting and heroes. So they're a little different. And so to bring those into the Marvel universe, I'm still like, I don't know.
Well, I
like
tell you this, we're gonna see them if these movies don't start improving, like as far as turnout and numbers. They'll start going with what they know will sell. You know.
Yeah. I'm surprised.
So we'll see them a lot sooner, because right now they're not in the pipeline. You know, they're letting them cool still.
Yeah.
He said I heard it, like he didn't plan to bring the X-Men in like 2023 or something.
Yeah, he said it's going to be a while because he didn't want the memory of Fox, especially with New Mutants, to be the first thing people think of.
And that's smart.
Yeah.
That's smart.
I would be like you said, if they keep going the way they're going, then it may just have to mean.
Yeah, they're going to start making ploys to, hey, look, guys, we got to start making some money here. We're spending a lot of money. We're losing a lot of money.
That's what Sony did with decided to do with Spider-Man and Venom. Finally, is they realized that they weren't making money off it, so they just gave Spider-Man over to MCU. Like, this is working. And then at the end of the last Venom movie, spoilers, it's been 2 weeks.
I'd assume they did something with Spider-Man.
Venom.
Wait, let me take my earphones off. Okay. I haven't seen it.
Venom gets teleported into the MCU at the end of the movie. The multiverse bang goes off, and he sees the image of Spider-Man being outed as Mysterio's killer.
Interesting.
What about now?
Yes, we're good.
Okay.
Yes, so they made some decisions to finally kind of give control over to Marvel.
All right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't. You know, it's funny. I read an article. I didn't read it. I saw a headline for an article. Is there like Marvel fatigue? I don't know if there's necessarily Marvel fatigue. I think the only fatigue comes in as Marvel movies being the only big tent movies that seem to come out anymore.
Yeah.
That I would like to have more. I mean, it was really cool to see summer movies and movies that were like, you know, Ghostbusters, or, you know, even though there's one coming out, but like different things. Like, I've never seen this before. Like when The Matrix came out, like, oh, this is really cool. Yeah. And now it seems the only big movies that come out are like mostly Marvel superhero movies. And it's like, okay, that's starting to get a little old.
I don't think there's Marvel fatigue. I think there is, I'll just call them fringe character fatigue. You know,
I think that's the thing. Is like, I mean, everyone, like, even before, you know, Avengers and Captain America movie, everyone knew, you know, Captain America, because that was kind of like, you know, it would be a joke. It was a reference. You know, every rap artist featured at some point the Hulk or Batman or Superman in like a track. But again, like I said, like we're in real nerd hours for this section of the MCU, where it's all right. If you read these things that Jack Kirby started and we only have rebooted recently, you'll get this. And
that's when they brought in the Star Fox character. I'm like, really? Like, out of all the characters you could have, I thought it was Adam Warlock they're going to bring him as like a Star Fox, and I'm like, no one cared about him in the Marvel comics. When people read him, they don't care about him now. So I don't.
Well, I think one thing that they're trying to do by doing this is they're trying to make people aware of characters that, you know, didn't do well, you know, to try to get them in and make people like, well, I have to say, like Guardians of the Galaxy, it did work with Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, Guardians of the Galaxy was popular somewhat, but, you know, I knew more about them than I did, you know, the Eternals. I did know, I mean, you can't read Marvel Comics and not ever hear about the Eternals, because they're like, you know, they're a subplot to a lot of different stories or stuff having to do with them. You know, you hear them referred to. But I'm saying, like, it did work with Guardians of the Galaxy, but it was, I don't know, you know, it's a little magical there because, and I'm not sure why it worked, but it did.
I just think a lot of that stuff is turning into more of a Star Wars sci-fi than superheroes. I think they're kind of getting away from that. When they brought in Star Fox, I'm like, okay, we have like we're in the. I told my friend, it's like we're not in the even like B characters now. We're into like the F characters,
Yeah.
like the characters that like show up and people like, it's him. I don't know.
Well, it's like the last thing that people really remember from Star Fox was him being represented on a assault case by She-Hulk as his lawyer.
Yeah, he was kind of a joke in the Marvel universe per se. I mean, I don't know. There's so many other characters. Like again, it's like why aren't we getting Ghost Rider or anything? I mean, even when you're doing the cosmic characters, I'm like, you couldn't throw in the Silver Surfer.
Yeah, a new Rockstars had a theory, which I kind of agree with, where the whole idea of Arrows being introduced is they're going to in some way pop up first. The Eternals we saw get raptured by Space God are going to go to the Living Tribunal, and Eros is going to be their lawyer because he is the ultimate. And then they're going to kind of guide that to where like Eros might be kind of a secret skadoocher, and then at some point Kane's going to mess things up and like, hey, we actually just recently discovered the ultimate adjudicator in the galaxy. Let's deal with him there.
I'd be curious. I don't know. Well, like I said, he there was a lot of even cosmic characters they can do, and I could see them doing that. I don't know.
Well, he was talking a lot about the cosmic scale of things, which is one of my favorite places to exist in Marvel. But we're going to actually get to our second subject and bring it all the way down to street level. So we talked about epics last week, which is, wide-spanning stories featuring themes of heroism and usually a strong moral lesson. We just spent about 30 minutes talking about cosmic scale things, which is, and dealing with the cosmic wheel,
universal type threats, threatening, stuff like that.
Usually when you can deal with themes of, metaphysicality, more like faith-based questions or grand beliefs. So we're going to bring it down and now talk about street-level stuff. This is Batman in the streets of Gotham, not dealing with, Superman or...
With the starfish villain. What is that? The
Starro.
Yeah, Starro.
Speaking of weird things that should not have worked, Starro in a movie.
Right.
They sold that so hard, and I'm.
They did.
Yeah, I'm there for it. But this is Batman in Gotham City dealing with Riddler. This is Spider-Man dealing with Rhino in the streets of New York. This is the West Coast Avengers dealing with the bomber suit mafia gang in San Francisco.
So I have a question for you. Would you guys consider Conan a street level character?
I don't know. Well, when it gets to like the greater planes, I think it almost turns to an epic. But if he's just within like, I forgot. We've got the name of the kingdom. Is it just Babylon? No.
Oh, he's Sumerian.
Sumerian, yeah.
It's great. You really had to ask me that.
I know.
Yes, I can't think. I'm trying to think. It's like he's Sumerian, but the name of the overall world of that Conan is in,
Middle Earth.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's Infrafan. You probably know this because you know this. Help me out. Okay, I'll look it up online. I can't believe I'm blanking on the I'm a Conan fan. It's like, oh yeah, seriously.
Infrafan asked the question way while ago. Did you ever answer it? Did these sales?
Yes. So I talked about that. So that's so the things were collected are from the direct market, which is things that go through a distributor that has to report their sales.
Segway Rider.
Yeah.
Like Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
That's good. Put him on a jazzy chair.
I don't think Conan stays locked down in one city for too long.
That's why I consider him a street level character, and the fact that it's more of a character study.
Well, I mean, I was thinking that make it more of an epic because they have more of a wider span, and it's more about the moral story. Whereas a street level would be something like Sin City. where it's one location and it's the location itself is the character. It's like,
I'm actually going to have to push back on that. I
Okay.
do think reading a lot of Robert E. Howard stuff, Conan is very much a street level character.
okay.
It is not about morals. Most of his are tall tales and stuff. Being a thief and stuff. I'm going to say he is more street level. Yeah, I'm going to push back on that a little bit. Not
Well,
negative.
you're entitled to your opinion. You're
Sure.
entitled to
Okay.
be wrong.
Certainly. I mean, like,
I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Oh, no, I'm just.
I don't know.
yeah, but a fable by itself is a subgenre of an epic. It's but a street level would be something where, you know, with Spider-Man, New York is as much a character as Spider-Man is. You know a lot about the setting. Same with Gotham City for Batman, or if you're dealing with something like even like, you know, Sin City is very much kind of the like epitome of a street level thing where it's all very contained down to this one little bubble. It's not quite.
Sorry, Hyperborea is
Hyperborea,
the world.
Yeah, but it's not quite like a bottle story, which would take place like within one building or within one room. Something you're locked down to a specific city or metro.
One thing that I always really thoroughly enjoyed and collected Spider-Man so hard for was because a lot of his stuff took place in the city.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the Lizard. You know, I remember whenever Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man title came out, and the first guy he went against was the Lizard, and then it was the Hobgoblin. And man, McFarlane made the Hobgoblin look so cool. Like I never even cared as much for the Hobgoblin before he did him. But what I liked about it is it was small stories. It was contained. And a little, I don't know, maybe a little more believable. I mean, if you can believe in a man who sticks to walls, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's not more realistic, but it's more grounded. Like there's
you
more.
Buy the lie. Yeah, you know, it's easier to buy.
Yeah, there's more there grounding it than there is there kind of pointed up into more of an epic or celestial space or cosmic space.
It just seems a little easier somehow. I'm not sure even what I mean, but like. When you get into these world, you know, the world's gonna be destroyed by the Galacticus, you know.
Yeah,
you know. I mean,
there's definitely something really cool about getting into those bigger scale things every once in a while. But
I like them every now and then. But like, you know, I get a little bit of apocalypse fatigue.
Yes. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. But you know, reading some issues of the new X-Men where it's just them on Krakoa dealing with like. Oh, Sabretooth is being a butthole again.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think that I almost was thinking about that. Street level characters seem more of like a little more character studies of people.
Sure. Yeah.
Than cosmic. I mean, my favorite street level character, if you're not going to use Conan, would be Judge Dredd.
Yeah. I'd say because like I forgot the name of it because I forgot the name of his city, but are they pretty much just like Mega City? Yeah. Where it is just him like in this city, like doing city stuff, like city cop stuff. Right. I mean, the worst kind of city cop stuff, but
yeah. He's so.
I think on the other hand, too, the reason I like Spider-Man comics is because it was dealing with a single character and not a team. I like team books. I do.
Yeah, that's also like
I get to focus on Spider-Man, you know. I think it's a little bit easier.
That's also kind of another staple of street level characters is that it is usually focused on a singular protagonist. Conan might walk a fine line because he does go through quite a few different locales, and also there is more of that element of fable or like.
A little bit. I mean, the Robert E. Howard stories were really just high adventure type stories. There was never really a like what you're talking about. Like, was there a back fable to Conan? Not really. All you knew was that he was Cimmerian. He came from the north, and he plied his trade as a thief, and then became adventurer, thief, and then adventure. And the King stuff. I don't even know if the King stuff is even written. And I think Robert E. Howard did write some King Conan stories. Yeah. But it was there was not like.
I think King Conan is where it might become more. Yeah, I think King Conan might be, or I'm thinking more it might lean more towards the epic side, but before that, it probably,
Yeah, he was just a wanderer who'd wander from city to city. So thinking of that sort of character, because there was never any, I don't remember, there was never any big, like, this world's going to end or whatever. I mean, Conan would stumble upon, like, cults or something raising a demon, then he would slay them because they all needed to die.
Yeah.
But the Robert E. Howard stories are more just, like, pulled little snippets of this guy's life as he wandered around and did things. And so that's why I consider it more street level. But I could see you say it would straddle the line when you get to King Conan. Like, oh yeah, that's not street level.
Yeah.
But I do think it straddles the line a little bit there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I could talk about, like, back when the X-Men were just in Westchester and New York, but for me, but they've always also kind of gone to the edge of epic and even cosmic, but.
They've pushed that a lot more. My favorite X-Men were always when they were in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
That was some of my favorites.
Australia, the Savage Land is great. It's picking a favorite street level character is very hard for me because I've always been like either collecting the X-Men or if it's I'll grab a little bit of everything. But I feel like for a reason always like the Donny Cats. It's a bit more modern, but the Donny Cats were of Doctor Strange. But I've always liked Doctor Strange, just like the main named like title run where it's him in New York in the Sanctum, dealing with whatever like magic thing of the week. And it's always this matchup of snarky, sassy dude with also like the a supreme expert on all things mystical. So just the back and forth between sassing his ghost dog and then spending a lot of time in a laboratory putting together like a potion or dealing with the weird stuff. Just running from like alleyway to alleyway, trying to make sure people can't see this giant demon that's following him. Like the juxtaposition of the very modern living as well as the weird magical fantasy of it, I liked. And
that was Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one with the Donny Cats is really funny. It also has one of the most heartbreaking moments in Doctor Strange I have ever read, but
heartbreaking.
Yeah, he has a pet ghost dog for a while, and then it goes the way of dogs in many stories.
No, man, that sucks.
So he died a second time, huh?
Yeah.
A street level team. Did you guys ever read a comic called The Nocturnals?
A little bit, I think.
That was done by Dan Burrington. That was an interesting, almost like a street level team. They were like these Halloween type creatures, but they were almost like an underground mafia.
Okay.
Which was that kind of made them more street level, and that they were actually dealing with other mafia bosses and stuff.
Yeah.
There would be some little cosmic terrors, but he really tried. And it was such a unique take because they weren't really technically superheroes. They were like this sort of underground troop of monsters that kind of found each other, and their way of dealing with since they were underground, they dealt with more underground themes in the comic. Like, he dealt with the mafia because we're all kind of underground. And that I thought was interesting. I've never seen a take like that before. Where they don't really look like superheroes and they're not technically supposed to be. They're more just like this sort of gang that operates in this sort of surreal magical city sometimes.
That's kind of like it's not really magical, but the manga now anime Gangster. With very,
I don't think I've seen that, but
just two like essentially combat vets who come back and essentially live as like the gangsters with a heart of gold, protecting their town from like the actual mafia. And one of them is really cool. Is deaf, so there's also get to deal with like with like combat inflicted injuries. So it was like one of the first times that I've read something with like sign language inclusion as like a means of communication.
Interesting.
Sign language in a
I
comic.
know
Huh?
it's funny. I
Yeah.
guess the Cowboy Bebop would be like a cosmic scale, street level.
Yeah, Cowboy Bebop is
Sort
really
of street
interesting. Yeah, because like the TV show definitely feels a little street level because they're just dealing like in that one area, but then you get to like the weird movie and that becomes more of an epic because you have to they go they go quite a ways in the movie, but the TV show itself
Yeah.
definitely felt very street level.
It's interesting how people
Yeah.
can mix some of those genres sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. I think I think also it's good to know your niche, but I think a good storyteller will know where to break niche and not feel like they're contained
Right.
to one specific thing. One of my favorite street level teams is Gargoyles. If you watch the Disney show,
I
Love
want to watch
Gargoyles.
those.
yeah,
I know they're on Disney Plus, and as a kid, I would catch them out of order, and
Yeah.
that's one thing that's on my list to watch because I really want to watch them in order.
I
Yeah.
loved
I watched them as a
Gargoyles.
kid, I loved
I was just thinking the other day about going back and watching some.
Because they're all in order now. Now I don't have
Yeah.
to try to wait because as a kid, when you're airing them, and I come back, it's episode
whatever.
so later.
Yeah,
and I'm
'cause
like,
when I was watching them, they were just playing a bunch of reruns, and you
Mhm.
never knew,
Yeah.
if
going
you were going to
on.
get them in consecutive order.
yeah.
Yeah,
And it was one of really the first kind of cartoons back that it really did a consecutive sort of storyline.
yes, yeah,
That was kind of unique for its time. I remember when I started realizing that, I'm like, oh man, and I know NECA put out a pretty cool Goliath figure that actually
Yes,
yes, yeah,
Well, that's what made me actually think about watching it again. But I tell you that show had all the earmarks. I believe if they'd have handled it right, that show had all the earmarks of being like if it would have been handled right, there could have been another He-Man line. It could have been. I think it could have been iconic. I really
Yeah.
do.
It was definitely one weird show to come from Disney.
yeah.
I accidentally started watching it, and I was really impressed with the animation.
Yeah.
The voice acting was really good, and man, I just really liked the stories.
Yes, yeah.
It was definitely one of the more unique takes and just everything
Yeah.
about it.
I think it's also one of the things that handles like younger entertainment really well, and that it understands creating a simple, like an easier to follow story without talking down.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It was very. I'm kind of glad that Disney put that on there, and it's kind of one of those things I've been meaning to watch. I know and I don't even know. I mean, again, another one that tried to be street level, but kind of was the original Silverhawks cartoon because there were supposed to be these sort of cops in space.
Yeah.
That kind of dealt, but it was kind of cosmic and then street level because they were almost supposed to be like the way they treated them was like there were these cyborg characters with wings, but then they'd go to the space station, cop station in space, and it was like it looked like this like old 70s beat cop station in New York or something. It was really a different take the way they did that.
Mm-hmm.
I did watch them when I would get home from school.
Yeah,
They were pretty good. I liked it, but I don't know. I didn't really dive off into it. It was a little, just a teeny bit past my time.
they didn't last very long. I mean, that was from the same company who did Thundercats. They did Thundercats and did another one called Tiger Sharks, which was really different.
Going back and watching it, it's probably all cheesy, but
now
for me then, I thought like the youngest kid, he was Copper, and he looked kind of like a clown.
Yeah, he would whistle.
Some stuff was a little cheesy to me, with that one. And the figures are terrible.
The funny thing is, that Super 7 is putting new figures out, and that's what got me thinking of. I'm like, oh.
I mean, they look like they're good representations, but I mean, I hope they do. I hope they can get them pretty shiny because right now, what they're showing, which I know that they're showing 3D renders,
they're not. Really,
what they're showing, they're not silver. They're not Silverhawks.
I don't know. I mean, I was like, loved that as a kid. I saw the figures, like, I used to love that show. Of course, the more you grow up and understand space, the more like, why do these characters need wings in space? I guess because it looks cool.
Yeah, I guess they can breathe too.
Yeah, I know. It's like, how are they able to do all this? But it's per kid.
How did they not burn up?
Yeah, I know,
how did
right?
They not freeze to death.
It's like
all at the same time.
So yeah, and again, because they had like the main weapon were these lasers in their shoulders. which is really just weird, like why their shoulders. There's a lot of weird eclectic stuff.
So you can keep your hands free.
Yeah, so you got to fly, right? You know,
Yeah.
it's hands free flying. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's funny. There were trying to think of any sort of.
I think what's also kind of interesting, what might kind of hit that same line as Conan, maybe, but Firefly. Where
Firefly did a good job of doing that. There was an overarching
like the overall
story, but it was
overall
much
was kind of overall was kind of like sitting in this epic space, but each snippet, each story was very much street level. It was
yeah. That definitely. I think that's what made that show so unique, was that sort of street level kind of commonality of like the way they talked and stuff.
Yes.
And again, I mean,
teaching how many people Chinese curse words?
Yeah, no kid.
Yeah, no doubt, right?
Yeah. One of them was, but one of them what they just said was straight up like elephant. Like, I hope an elephant diarrhea is on your ancestors, something like that.
I wonder how many people in Chinese are listening to that going, what did he say?
They're probably I mean, apparently these are like, it's like the same level like your mama jokes. I imagine for them is probably like that. You know, just when you have random cut to your mama joke for us, they're like, oh, okay, that's neat.
There was a meme of like Carrie Potter saying goodbye to Snape as Snape's dying, and it said something like Carrie's like, what? And it's like, say goodbye to Joe, or say like I love make sure to tell Joe I love him. And he's like, Joe, who's Joe? And he's like, Joe, mama, and then he dies. Like, that's good. Okay, I like that one.
That's great.
Harry's just like, you punk. Like, and what can you say? I mean, you got the last laugh. There you go.
Yep.
So, but yeah, there were. I actually probably prefer more street level stories than the cosmic ones. But like I like the Punisher.
Oh yeah, Punisher's great.
Yeah, as far as like
I love the Punisher.
Yeah.
I don't care how many people say he's I don't care if Captain America doesn't like him. I love him.
He's the epitome. He's like literally when you look up vigilante in the dictionary.
Yeah.
Like he's the epitome of what a vigilante is. He's just literally a guy with a gun taking the law into his own hand. This is why I'm always amazed that they continuously mess up his character in the movies. I'm like, how is this possible? Like, how many cool movies have you made with dudes with guns?
Right.
And then you make movies with the Punisher, and it's like, well, we're not going to have him use guns. He has this elaborate scheme to get back. I'm like, no.
See, that's the thing is a lot of these, they try to. It's political. They don't want to do a lot of stuff about guns.
John Barenthal said if he was to retake the role of Punisher, he said it needed to be just as brutal. He's saying that's what I liked about the show on Netflix is very much like I'm just gonna fight my way through. That's my plan.
Yeah. Man,
there was the only thing I didn't like about it.
That was crazy. That movie.
I watched some of the only thing that kind of got me about him was I don't know, did he really torture people in the comics? He killed them in brutal ways, but I don't remember him torture. Did he torture?
There are a couple times, especially with the microchip storyline. Before he realized that microchip was trying to help him, he did quite a bit of attaching car batteries to people's nipples.
So yeah, maybe.
But that was one of the things where, like, when he sat down with Cable and Wolverine, we're like, "Hey, we get it. We like fighting too, but you can tone it down."
Yeah. He's just I don't know. I mean, again, I still up to like he's a dude with guns. I have to actually admit that the Punisher Warzone movie was technically not a super good movie, but there were certain scenes in that movie that nailed that character. And there was assault he did in a building towards the end when he's going through and shooting all these guys in this building. That whole scene is like, that's the Punisher in a nutshell. He's just technically going through systematically killing every one of these guys like a special elite, forces guy would. I'm like, that's him. And then I got stupid again. But there were certain scenes in that movie, and the guy who played the Punisher, that guy probably looks more like Frank Castle in anyone I've seen.
Well, I think one of the Marvel artists used him for a long time, didn't he? Like for his
reference and stuff.
Yeah.
He really. And the funny thing is, that movie could have been better, but there were certain scenes where they really nailed, like, okay, yeah, he just goes through and just kills people. That's, there's like he's pretty much an American version of Judge Dredd. He's very black and white. You break the law, you die. That's it. There's just no other way to look at this. So, but again, when they did the one on Netflix, and they go like, "Well, there's a government conspiracy," I'm like, no. The original story is he's just literally his family gets caught in a mafia crossfire. He just systematically goes out and kills the mafia. That's it. That's the story.
I look at the Punisher as being like the guy that Batman won't be.
Yeah.
I mean, because Batman refuses to kill people, and I'm down with that. I mean, you wouldn't want to kill somebody over some minor infraction, but I mean, if you're picking up somebody ever so many months, you put them in, Arkham Asylum, and then they break out and they kill, hundreds of people, and then just for you to do it again over and over and over. I mean, at some point, you need a Punisher. I mean,
that's kind of what
got to be. Before long, it's your fault, and that's what I like about Injustice is.
Well, in the real world, like the Joker and half of those villains would have been given a death sentence and executed probably by the state long before they went to Arkham Asylum, especially the Joker.
You would think so, but let me tell you, in this political climate that we're in, and we won't get into it, I don't know that that's true. I mean,
I don't know, maybe
moly.
not. But I always, and I remember that even Zack Snyder said this when it's like Batman doesn't kill, and he said, and I totally agree with this. It's like, look, if Batman did the things he did in real life, there'd be people dying from internal bleeding, concussions, other.
Yep.
I mean, he could not go through and do what he does and be like, "Oh, no one's going to die." It's like, no, somebody's eventually going to die from the stuff you are doing to them. That's going to happen.
I was reading the issue of James Tynion's run earlier. There, Batman shoots himself on like a body cart out of a railgun, and
wait, Batman shoots himself out of a railgun?
Yeah, so he has a helicopter railgun attached to it that shoots him. So like magnetic action propels him super quick on this body cart. So then he times head into grapple, so then he rolls onto the ground. So he's going at railgun speeds.
He would have been mulch, I think, by the time the force coming out of the gun.
His brain should be coming out of his nose.
It would have been like a red mist coming out of that gun.
But then, was it Minerva? Lady Assassin, for her name. But she jumps off her motorcycle onto his thing and tries to poison him. But he's Batman. He has a counter to that. But then he runs her head on into a semi. So at first he slides underneath because he's in this body cart, but she crunches into the engine block. I'm like, her body would be in 5 locations.
Yeah. Did she actually survive?
Yes.
That's not possible. This is like, I understand the no kill, but then there's just a part where I'm like, can you just treat me as a relatively intelligent human being that knows
I feel like that has to be like
physics?
Part of the joke now at this point is like Batman can do anything and just doesn't kill people.
And it's just, how is that? I remember I watched, and this wasn't even Batman doing anything, but I remember I watched that Long Halloween, and they showed this, and I may even mention on here, like Catwoman, he was chasing Catwoman, and he finally caught her, and she's like hanging off like a flagpole, because of course people put flags 50 stories up in the air, which I mean, maybe they do. It just seems like, if you want somebody to see a flag, you want to put it more ground level. But she's like, well, I was just chasing you. She let go, and in the show, she must have dropped 20 feet. 20 stories. I'm sorry, 20 stories. I mean, she was dropping a long ways, and then literally got within 5 feet above the ground, did a flip and landed perfectly. And I'm like, can we have some? Okay, look, if you're supposed to be somewhat realistic, can we have some modicum of realism?
Right.
I don't care, but with that padded in the suit, that's not going to help. But he has arm in the suit. That's not going to help. This is like in the Christopher Nolan, when he falls down the roof and then he falls through the air and he catches the girl and hits the car, and he's like, the girl's okay. And I'm like, yeah, no, the girl will be dead.
Yeah.
He has armor in his suit. He caught her. Doesn't matter. She would be dead. The
Yeah.
impact would jar her brain and head, and she would be dead.
That's why I love
That's
That's why I love. That's why I love Deadpool calling it. He was like, you don't never superhero land. It's going to hurt your knees.
yeah. But I mean, he's armored, and like, yeah. But unless there's like some sort of like impact gel or something, his body's just going to rattle around in the armor and cause massive amounts of damage.
Well, it's like Iron Man and explosions and stuff.
Yeah.
There's still a concussion off of those explosions that, I don't care what kind of armor you got on. I mean, that tanks can't even withstand the concussion.
Oh yeah, he would be literally
kill people inside of a tank without even penetrating the tank just by the concussion.
That's I want that storyline where like like that one football movie where you just have one person who's like, hey, a lot of your heroes have like CTE. We need to like make a better helmet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's their Iron Man stuff is great when he's blowing up. It's like, yeah, but I'm in a suit of armor, so it doesn't matter. And I'm like, actually, that might be making it worse if you're flying around exploding missiles, because it's just basically rattling you around in this tight.
Unless the inner layer is completely gel, in which case you have to worry about the fact that he's super sticky when he gets out of the suit.
Yeah, it's literally absorbing the impact in some way.
He's just coated. He's just sloshing around in ballistic gel the entire time.
Yeah.
Yes. That's what he'd have to be. Yeah. Of course, that would be.
Suit opens.
I try to give some. I mean, even my friend said like so many movies are like missiles explode by somebody and they go flying into like a wall and they get up. I'm like, no, they'd be dead. They would just pretty much crush all their inside organs. They wouldn't be getting up going like, huh, boy, that was loud. Like, no.
Yeah.
He was even saying like the violence has gotten ridiculous. Like, yeah, it's pretty much Tom and Jerry violence, and most even serious action movies is Tom and Jerry violence.
Or is it the Marvel guy? I forgot his name. Like has no real power other than the fact that he can't die. Yeah. But just like that line where like he gets like thrown across something, gets detonated, and he's like, "Don't worry, I have really resilient organs."
It's like that's not gonna. we're totally good with that or whatever.
Yeah.
It's people go like it's superhero stuff. I'm like, okay, yeah, but that's why like. In the Avengers movie, when they do, I'm like, okay, it's superhero stuff. But when Christopher Nolan does, and he's trying to make Batman realistic, and then he does it, I'm like, okay, you can't be trying to go realistic and then throw this stuff at me.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm going to start. The more realistic you make it, the more I'm going to start questioning how he's able to do this.
Right. That's the thing. Like, if you're doing like a street level run, like you get the Batman runs where it's hyper teched up. Batman is taking 50 rounds and not going down. He's throwing people through windows and they're fine. That's kind of it all exists within the same world. But then if you get where like he gets knifed once by Penguin and he's down and grabbing his side, like okay, he can't punch someone too hard.
Yeah, you can't. There was even in the new Batman trailer, there was a scene where he's in this tunnel and these people unloading look like MR-15s or something, like machine gun straight into his body. He's just walking and bouncing off. I'm like, okay, I can see maybe in some capacity, like he could have armor enough that's not piercing it. But everyone in that tunnel would be being slaughtered by ricochet bullets.
Right.
It would just be like a bloodbath. It wouldn't be like, I'm like, the bullets bouncing off and going, where? Exactly.
Yes.
So that whole no rule Batman killing by him armoring up in that scenario and walking through that gunfire, he just slaughtered all the people he's fighting.
Yeah, and eventually somebody's going to get smart and shoot him in the mouth.
Exactly. Which I always find it amazing that they don't. Like his mouth isn't armored. No, keep shooting him in the chest. Well, eventually got to penetrate.
The firearms instructor told me center mass. I'm going to shoot center mass.
Right? Yeah. Just like when they sit there and unload an entire clip in the Superman, and you would think after like 3 bullets, you're like, wait, this isn't. Well, if I do the whole clip, maybe that'll make a difference.
Yeah.
So yeah, most movies I'm like, okay, whatever. It's superhero, whatever. But that's the fatal flaw. You start making it realistic. I'm going to start questioning how you can do that. So, but yeah, Batman. Just the new Batman movie looked great. I thought it looked good. Yeah. Just that one scene, I'm like, I don't really think that's possible. But
well, we were confirming that the Riddler is the Zodiac killer, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I'm glad they're putting the Riddler in. The Riddler I always thought was a cool character. If he's done right, I think he's actually. He actually, to me, is one of the more believable Batman rogues because I can see somebody being obsessed with like messing with somebody. Like he's the epitome of like the serial killer leaving clues without serial killing.
Oh yeah,
if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Well, in this movie, he's going to be straight up killing people, but I like even the way his voice sounds in the trailer. There's like something in there where it's not quite. It's very unsettling. It's the way he delivers his lines.
I'm excited for the movie. I think the movie looks really cool. I don't know. I will have to see the movie whether or not I believe Twilight Vampire can be Batman, but
well, you have to remember there hasn't been Twilight Vampire in a while. He's been the weird dude in the Lighthouse. He's been
he's done a lot of other movies. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I mean, if you watched is it A Good Time where he plays a like a paroled I think it's like a heroin junkie. It's like that. Honestly, like Cosmopolis. One, it's really weird. It's a movie where it's done Cosmopolis is a canned story in that it takes place inside one car the entire time. It is done entirely in rhyming verse and couplet.
Interesting.
And it is the story about the ending and rebuilding of the world as seen through a above it all CEO.
Okay.
So he's on a car ride from one meeting to another. The world collapses and rebuild itself this entire time, and he's just like, he's like, I've seen this coming. This is kind of the way the cycle of things.
Interesting.
It's based on a Russian poem because of course it is.
And it almost reminds me of that movie Mother.
Kind of
had what was her name? She was like the big famous one in the Hunger Games. Jennifer Lawrence, she was in that.
Yeah,
that movie was kind of like the world collapsing, rebuilding, and it all took place in that house.
But yeah, it's that movie is what makes me believe he'll make a pretty decent Batman because it is just a dark character and like putting together the pieces in his head.
He looked pretty cool. I mean, the one thing is, I will talking about street levels. That Batman movie made him probably the most street level I've seen him.
Yes.
Like literally, his costume is made of like just like store bought combat boots and stuff. Like he cobbled together. Like that's, and I like the fact that he used a Charger or like some muscle cars.
Yes, that's the Batmobile. Yeah,
yeah. I'm like,
and it's gonna be year 2 Batman, so it's gonna be very much like more the detective focus rather than
Yeah. So yeah, I'd be curious. Do they ever do street level stuff like that in any of the Batman comics anymore? Because I haven't read them in years. I know but did they ever make like other stories like that?
Kind of. So Tinian's run that I'm reading, outside of like some of the absurdity with some of the physics, it is all just dealing with it's a weird battle that happens with the civic planning between the designer and Bruce Wayne. And so the designer being the original mastermind villain who had actually given Penguin Riddler, Joker, Black Cat, all like their like starts, and he's the one who's like originally when he wanted to go to war with the Court of Owls and put together this grand scheme, and Bruce Wayne is redesigning Gotham and getting in the way of that. So. And there's more things behind the scenes with that. Spoilers that I won't get into. So that's very much all happening within Gotham. And I believe the stuff right now is kind of weird because we're dealing a lot with the fact that Poison Ivy has cloned herself, and one of the clones is evil. And the other one is.
I thought Poison Ivy was evil.
She's chaotic neutral.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that's interesting. So you have a very evil Poison Ivy and a very chaotic neutral Poison Ivy, and Batman is in all this. Like, why is everyone that I know making horrible decisions?
Yep.
Interesting. Yeah, I've read. What was the last Batman book? I think I read like one of the Black Label series, which did some pretty cool stuff. I usually read, like, if I get something from the library, I'll read like a Batman one shot or something every once in a while. But I haven't read the main series in a long time.
No.
So, Are those pretty much your two go-to, like X-Men and Batman?
Right now it is. My subscription list is Batman, X-Men, Sword, X-Force, Eternals, and Eternals is on my list before the movie. I didn't just do it after the movie. I've been reading Eternals for a little bit. Yeah,
did something where he kind of kickstarted him again.
Yeah, and oh man, Department of Truth. But
is Department of Truth, is that Image?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Image. Those are my current subscriptions. But it's very hard for me to dislike most comic characters unless like because if anyone can be written well.
Yeah.
But like Venom runs, I was like anything Donny Cates touches, I'll probably pick up. But bounce between Venom and Doctor Strange, or I'll head over to Green Lantern. The other Green Lantern is epic and cosmic by definition. He doesn't really touch too many street level things now. I guess my other street level DC would probably be like Blue Beetle or Green Arrow.
Okay.
Yeah. Spawn is super fun.
Oh, you still read Spawn?
Every now and then. I think also like my best non big two, my favorite non big two street level right now is probably Ray from Valiant. He's kind of like future cyborg samurai in Neo Japan.
That sounds kind of cool.
Japan is one giant floating city now that it is kind of like a totalitarian state where they're told that the Earth is a toxic wasteland and it's not safe to go down. And Ray is the protector of Japan that keeps that does father's justice on the criminals that inhabit the city, and is rebuilt every time he dies. But there is something more behind everything going on.
Of course there is. It always has to be.
Yes.
Now, are they doing a bigger Valiant universe still?
They ish. Yeah. So they back to the I forgot what the name of their team is, but yeah. With like Hope and Bloodshot and all them.
Yeah, and I think the Exo Man of War.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because I keep forgetting that Valiant's still around. Like, yeah, they're still around.
Yeah, and they have some pretty good stuff too. Like I do like the stuff they put out.
Yeah, I haven't. Like I said, I usually just kind of read random stuff. It's strangely enough that Blade of the Immortals very much street level, in that even though it's set in feudal Japan, he even said all his characters talk like they just come from the streets, like they use a lot of slang and they're punks, and so he kind of mixed up modern day tropes and ways of talking with feudal Japan, which I think is kind of cool.
That's dope.
Yeah,
that's also what I liked about Afro Samurai was the fact that it was kind of in this weird timeless space.
It was such a weird, and I even liked the second movie. I think it was called Resurrections or whatever. Yeah, Afro Samurai was a really cool. They would do it. There was something about mixing manga and hip hop. Then I don't know if they do that much anymore, but they were doing that for a long while.
I'll have to see when it has. But I know the RZA bought a studio in Japan.
Oh, really? Because he did the music for Afro Samurai, at least the original series. I know that. And Afro Samurai is great. I wish they'd do more. So I always like eclectic stuff like that. I think they do some. Japan does some really interesting sort of takes on mixing genres. They're pretty good at that, I think.
All right, we are actually over time, so we're going to grab some final thoughts and then wish you all a good night.
Infrafan says Samurai
Champloo
as well. What?
Samurai Champloo? Yeah, that's a good series. That's an old series. Yeah, that was another one. Very much like I think it was a manga. The Infrafan. Was it a manga first, or was it an anime first, then a manga? Do you know? I wonder if he knows that. But yeah, that's one from like the mid-90s. If you like Afro Samurai, Tim, and you haven't seen it, you should check out Samurai Champloo. You'd like that. So.
All right. Well,
Final thoughts. I don't have any thoughts at all.
Okay.
I think I've said all I had to say. That's it.
this could lead into something. Did y'all hear about Todd McFarlane this week? I think I heard some
Yeah,
news.
Todd McFarlane and Stevie Aoki opened up an NFT thing.
There you go. All right, now, you want to
Okay, yeah, he's
go
not
through
sure.
and
Yeah, it's where the anime first. Yeah, Imperfan. I think it was anime first, then a manga. I think it was. So, anyway, go on.
Tim, you want to close this out?
Alrighty. Well, we are Vineyard, that Silverline show on Tuesday Crew. You can follow us at our socials below, mostly on Instagram. I'm also on Twitter, where I mostly do funny things and complain about people spoiling the new Spider-Man movie online. And you can right now go buy a Christmas special on Indiegogo in demand. And we will be back next Tuesday with our normal show. But before that time, we have our Wednesday crew here, 8 p.m. Eastern, and again, Silver Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern. So we'll see you next week. But until then,
Make
Make
mine
mine
Silverline.